Okay, good morning, good evening, and a very warm hello to you all, wherever you're joining us from in the world for this SIWI session on governance, water security, and gender equality. My name is Zara Balluri. I'm working with the Water for Women Fund, which is an Australian government 100% climate financed fund working in water and sanitation and gender equality in 15 countries in Asia Pacific. So why are we talking about governance? Well, the statistics speak for themselves, don't they? I mean, we all know that SDG 6, water and sanitation, none of the indicators are on track to be met by 2030. SDG 5 for gender equality, not much better. Only 15% of those indicators are on track to be met. So we have to do something different. Well, we do have the existing frameworks, such as we have the SIWI framework, the SWA building blocks, but clearly they're not working. Today, we're going to hear from 3 women who are redefining governance in different examples: India, Indonesia, and Cambodia. We'll hear about how they're working with rights holder and duty bearers together to redefine governance for increased water security and gender equity. First up, we have Melita Grant from the Institute for Sustainable Futures at the University of Technology, Sydney, who's a WASH and water resources management specialist. She'll be providing examples of their work with IDE Cambodia. Then we'll hear from Herning Tias Ekaristi, or Tias, who's a GEDSI specialist working with Yayasan Plan Indonesia. She'll speak about the creation of an integrated water management forum in Sumbawa in Indonesia. And lastly, we'll hear from Juhi Jain, who's the Deputy Director of the Centre for Advocacy and Research in India. She'll be providing examples of good governance in the WASH systems in Jaipur and Bhubaneswar. So I'm really looking forward to learning from these 3 experts. And without further ado, I'd like to hand over to our first speaker, Melita Grant. Over to you, Melita.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and welcome everybody to this session. I'm going to be talking about a particular resource that will help organisations that would like to partner with rights holder organisations. And I'll explain what rights holder organisations are in a minute. But first of all, we're going to have a little look at an example of a partnership between WASH organisation, IDE, and a women's organisation, She Enterprises, in Cambodia. Thank you.
Ôngការ IDE បានធ្វើការតាមរយៈវិស័យឯកជនដើម្បីបង្កើតទីផ្សារអនាម័យនៅតំបន់ជនបទក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាចាប់តាំងពីឆ្នាំ 2009 មក ម្ចាស់អាជីវកម្មផលិតបង្គន់អនាម័យដែលបានសហការជាមួយគម្រោងបានដំឡើងបង្គន់លើសពី 38,000 បង្គន់ នេះជាអត្រាគ្របដណ្ដប់បង្គន់នៅតាមបណ្ដាខេត្តចំនួន 6 ចាប់ពី 23% ទៅដល់ 80% នាពេលបច្ចុប្បន្ន យើងរចនានិងផលិតបង្គន់អនាម័យដែលប្រជាជនប្រាថ្នាចង់បានដែលមានតម្លៃសមស្របតាមបរិបទប្រទេសកម្ពុជាដោយប្រើប្រាស់វិធីសាស្ត្ររចនាដំណោះស្រាយតាមរយៈការផ្ដោតទៅលើអ្នកប្រើប្រាស់ឬ Human Centered Design ដើម្បីបង្កើនតម្រូវការបង្គន់អនាម័យយើងបានជ្រើសរើសនិងបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលភ្នាក់ងារផ្នែកលក់ជាច្រើនយើងបានបង្កើតឲ្យមានការចូលរួមពីម្ចាស់អាជីវកម្មផលិតបង្គន់អនាម័យតាមរយៈការធ្វើជំនួញផ្ដល់បច្ចេកទេសនិងពង្រឹងសមត្ថភាពចំណេះដឹងពាក់ព័ន្ធនឹងការរួមបញ្ចូល Gender យើងផ្ដល់អានុភាពដល់ស្ត្រីឲ្យមានជំហរជាអ្នកដឹកនាំជំនួញនិងបង្កើតនូវបរិយាកាសដែលឲ្យបុរសនិងស្ត្រីអាចសហការគ្នាក្នុងនាមជាដៃគូពាណិជ្ជកម្មដ៏ស្អិតរមួត
នាងខ្ញុំឈ្មោះហាត់ទីនជាជាងខាងធ្វើបង្គន់នៅខាងភូមិថ្មីឃុំចាឈូកស្រុកអង្គរជុំនិយាយទៅលើអាជីវកម្មរបស់ខ្ញុំកុំហុកនៅប្រហែលឆ្នាំចុងក្រោយនេះខ្ញុំទិញចូលច្រើនសម្រាប់ឧបករណ៍និងសម្ភារៈដែលខ្ញុំបានទិញហ្នឹង អត្ថប្រយោជន៍បើដូចជាឡានអញ្ចឹងបង្កើនការដឹកបានច្រើនហើយនឹងលឿនជាងមុនទៅតាមតម្រូវការរបស់អតិថិជនយើងអត់សូវខកពេលទេហើយខ្ញុំឃើញសន្ទុះនៃចំណូលរបស់ខ្ញុំក៏កើនដែរហើយដូចពុំលូពុំអីអញ្ចឹងគឺវាបង្កើននៅការផលិតរបស់យើងអាចឲ្យទៅតម្រូវការរបស់អតិថិជនហើយដូចខ្ញុំយកមកវិនិយោគលើទិញដីទិញអីអញ្ចឹងឃើញថាខ្ញុំងាយស្រួលក្នុងការដាក់ stock ពីព្រោះអីវ៉ាន់របស់យើងវាត្រូវការកន្លែងធំចាអញ្ចឹងគឺយើងត្រូវការកន្លែងនឹងភាគច្រើនដើម្បីបង្កើន stock ខ្ញុំស្គាល់វគ្គបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលរបស់ C ហ្នឹងតាមរយៈអង្គការ IDE ហ្នឹងជាពិសេសគឺគាត់លើកទឹកចិត្តឲ្យតែស្ត្រីឯងពីដំបូងណា
Share Investment គឺជាសហគ្រាសសង្គមដែលយើងធ្វើការងារគ្រប់គ្រងទៅលើសហគ្រិនស្ត្រីខ្នាតតូចនិងខ្នាតមីក្រូនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាយើងតាមរយៈការផ្តល់វគ្គបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលក៏ដូចជាការប្រឹក្សាយោបល់បណ្ដាញ Share Investment គឺយើងបានធ្វើការងារជាមួយនឹងអង្គការ IDE ដើម្បីធ្វើឲ្យប្រកាសថាខាងម្ចាស់សហគ្រិនខ្នាតតូចហ្នឹងដែលធ្វើការនៅខាងផ្នែកបង្គន់ហ្នឹងគឺគាត់មាននិរន្តរភាពទៅលើចំណូលនៃគ្រួសាររបស់ពួកគាត់ផ្ទាល់តែម្ដងផ្នែកដ៏សំខាន់ជាខ្លាំងជាងគេគឺយើងសិក្សាទៅលើតារារាំងអីគេខ្លះដែលធ្វើឲ្យស្ត្រីហ្នឹងមិនអាចចូលរួមនៅក្នុងអាជីវកម្មមួយនឹងបាន
Thank you. So that's an example of where a rights holder organisation, a women's organisation supporting women to be entrepreneurs, has partnered with WASH organisation and had some really practical impacts on the women involved in that partnership. So this session is about governance, and governance of the water and sanitation hygiene sector is very complex because there's a lot of different actors, as we know. And this simple diagram just explains the complexity of some of the dynamics between the actors. You've got your water and wastewater utilities, government agencies, WASH committees, and the like. And down here at the bottom of this diagram, we've got the WASH civil society organisations and the rights holder organisations, and they're going to be the focus of this presentation with a connection to governing the WASH system. Thank you. This document and support that I'm going to talk to you about really connects into what we know as the Towards Transformation in WASH continuum. And Water for Women, the fund that Zara is representing today and that we're all part of, have been using this continuum to inform our work and to inform the way in which we go about doing gender equality and inclusion work. As you can see on the left-hand side of this diagram, we've got an unaware or a harmful approach where GEDSI, gender equality inclusion, is not even considered in a program, through to more responsive and aware approaches. But on the right-hand side, you'll see a transformative approach, which is really where we want to be aiming our WASH programs. And that's where you can really start to challenge social norms and support the most marginalised people in ways that are very meaningful and genuinely empowering. So that's where the partnerships between rights holder organisations and WASH organisations fits into the spectrum. The guidance that I'll be talking about in more detail now was developed collaboratively amongst a number of organisations within the Water for Women Fund. And we had webinars to share experience of the different approaches to partnering with rights holder organisations. There were interviews, there was literature review, and we also had a working group that collaboratively engaged with the document and the guidance that you'll get a link to at the end of this presentation. Next slide, please. And the types of rights holder organisations that were the real focus of this piece of work are women's organisations, organisations for people with disabilities, and sexual and gender minority organisations. So we've got lots of case studies and examples of water projects, sanitation projects directly engaging with these rights holder organisations and delivering some fantastic outcomes. Next slide, please. In the guidance document, we've got top tips for effective partnering, and some of this is just basic good ways to partner and engage with other parts of that complex WASH system. But a lot of it is nuanced for these types of partnerships, which are very sensitive to power dynamics because of the fact that rights holder organisations are representing the most marginalised people in society and advocating for their rights to be upheld. So there's understanding of each other's visions and values through to committing adequate time and resources to the partnership, meeting expectations of each other and checking in and tweaking the relationship as you go, a real focus on communication. Having an understanding of power dynamics and having a conversation about that at the start, not just sort of sweeping that under the carpet, but really saying, look, we're a small organization, or we're a big international organization. What does that mean for our partnership, and what can we do to manage that power dynamic? So these are all in the guidance document as well. And the next slide shows that we also have a very handy checklist. And that is organised in a number of steps of developing a partnership and putting in place the ways of working. So we've got the preparation phase, setting the foundations and the vision, through to developing strong partnership practices and building on each other's complementarities. And the next slide shows some of the detail of what this checklist looks like. So we've got some very specific actions and a way for you to tick them off as you go and implement some of these best practices in your partnerships. So all of these ideas are derived collectively, as I mentioned, from the Water for Women partners, and there's lots of case studies and examples given to really emphasize the importance of these principles and these ways of working. And also make sure that they do genuinely sit at that transformative end of the spectrum. Next slide, please. So these are the resources. With the Partnerships Guide is a part of a suite of resources that are on shifting social norms and also engaging with the WASH system as a whole, so governance of the WASH system. And you can just click on any of the QR codes now and download those resources. And we'll also put a link in the chat to the Water for Women website where all these resources are available. And they really are examples of best practice in the WASH sector in driving transformative gender equality, disability, social inclusion change in the societies that we work in and within our WASH projects. Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand over to Tias now to give you an example from her work in Indonesia. Thank you so much, Tias.
Hey, thank you, Melita. Hi, I'm Tias, as a GEDSI specialist in Water for Women project from Plan Indonesia. I'm based in Kupang, East Nusa Tenggara. Thank you for having me. And now we will learn together about Integrated Water Management Forum, empowering diverse communities through inclusive water management. Before I speak further, we will watch a short video about good governance in effort to increase GEDSI in water security in Sumbawa District, one of the districts in Indonesia.
Water is the source of life and basic human rights for everyone. But does everyone have an equal access to clean water? What challenges do vulnerable groups face in accessing water? Gender equality and social inclusion issues are critical to ensure equal access to clean water. Many women, people with disabilities, and other marginalized groups faced significant barriers in getting clean water. Women and children are the groups often most affected by water issue. They need to walk far, spend a lot of time and energy just to get clean water. This reduces their education of work time.
Tantangan masyarakat di Desa Kelungkung ini, kesusahan air bersih, tidak ada untuk mandi. Kita pergi ambil air jauh sekali, kira-kira 10 kilo. Kadang-kadang kita beli di sumur orang, kita beli patungan di sini. Kita bayar 350.000 di Kelungkung sini.
People with disabilities also have great difficulties to access clean water due to non-inclusive infrastructure which makes them isolated and dependent on others' assistance.
Tu sate se para kaita. Mano majena tu kasasam kasangin talu titit.
Hence, marginalized people often reside in areas with poor access to clean water, which makes them vulnerable to diseases caused by polluted water. To ensure integrated, sustainable, and equitable water resources for all, Yayasan Plan International Indonesia, together with other stakeholders, including Organization of People with Disability, initiated the Integrated Water Management Forum in 2022, which integrate GEDSI aspects by encouraging meaningful participation of all elements in the community, including OPD members and other stakeholders.
Keterlibatan perempuan itu sangat penting, menjadi kunci utama.
In ensuring Integrated Water Management Forum integrates commitment to GEDSI, several stages are implemented, namely GEDSI Basic Element, establish Integrated Water Management Forum, and implementing GEDSI strategy in Integrated Water Management.
Jadi kita dari Forum Disabilitas Syariah memastikan apakah teman-teman itu terlibat, perempuan disabilitas dan laki-laki juga.
For the sustainability of GEDSI and good governance in Integrated Water Management Forum, it has been strengthened through policies and regulations through Regent of Sumbawa Decree, promoting water equity policies, encouraging the issue of equitable water resources management regulation, efforts to encourage GEDSI in good governance and good water security governance.
Jadi sekarang teman-teman disabilitas itu paham tentang pengelolaan sumber daya air.
GEDSI approach in Integrated Water Management Forum has brought positive changes, including women now have a stronger voice and role in water management, leading to more inclusive and sustainable solutions. People with disabilities have better access to clean water facilities. Marginal groups have equal access to water resources, reducing social gaps. Not only impacting gender equality situation, this forum also able to impact the provision of sustainable and quality water security.
Dengan adanya forum PSDAT ini dapat berbagi dalam menunjukkan arah kebijakan untuk konservasi sumber daya air.
Tapi ini adalah embrio untuk bagaimana ke depan bisa untuk meningkatkan debit air ya.
Forum PSDAT ini untuk bisa mencapai air minum yang layak dan aman ke depannya.
By integrating gender equality and social inclusion in water governance in a good government, we can realize equitable and sustainable water security. Together, let's realize access to clean water for all.
Okay, next I will continue with the additional explanation about what is integrated water management, activities, challenges, and other things. So, integrated water management is a forum for synergy and collaboration between parties related to springs or water resources. For this aspect, conservation, utilization, control, information system, and community empowerment. Next slide, please. After 2 years of existence, this forum has done some action based on the 6 divisions, while also consider GEDSI aspects. Other than that, some action have also been taken in forest and spring rehabilitation, dam remediation, mangrove planting, quarterly monitoring, and public waste facilities, and mediation of water conflict in the communities. This forum also actively contributes to the preparation of government development work programs and the preparation of regulation regarding the protection of spring. Next slide, please. This forum has challenges related to institution, regulation, and culture. Still need to carry out advocacy to strengthen bargaining position at the provincial and national level, commitment and change of position at government level, coupled with patriarchal culture, which still causes limited space and opportunities for women to develop their abilities, and the public's low understanding of disability concept. So there is not much involvement of people with disability in public forum. Next slide, please. Yeah, from all the things, we can draw a lesson that this forum has succeeded to facilitate communication and coordination among members of the forum, and to coordinate budget sharing between parties including district government, village government, private sector, traditional institution, and related sectors. Some local culture and knowledge are gender blind and paternalistic. Thus, it is important to introduce GEDSI that encourage participation, leadership, and decision-making in women, people with disability, and other marginalized groups. Integrated water management as a forum for cross-sector collaboration, including traditional institutions. This is a part of effort to increase gender equality and also become entry point for good governance regarding water security. And it is important to maintain this forum because it can encourage peace and prevent potential conflicts related to the use of water resources. This forum could be a media for public awareness regarding involvement of marginalized groups. Next slide, please. So, the recommendations are this forum could be an alternative of cross-sector collaboration in good water resources management in all areas, which also has action plans that have a good impact in the long term, especially for nature conservation, disaster mitigation, water security, and public awareness of the importance of protecting water. Integrated water management forum at any level should involve all stakeholders and represent all community members, including women, people with disability, community, traditional and religious leaders, and other marginalized groups to make sure their voices are heard and encourage participation, leadership, and decision-making. And that's why this forum needs to exist at district level to respond issues related to water management that is more inclusive and climate resilience. Next slide, please. And this is a testimony from Mrs. Dija, a woman with a disability, who is a member of this forum, saying that she is delighted to be part of this forum, and it made her realize how important it is to preserve our water resource. And it is a lesson that people with disability can also contribute to climate resilience. The last one slide, please. And this is an expression from Mr. Takin. He is a government official who is also chairman of this forum. He also said that this forum have a good collaborative forum that involve all parties, including marginalized groups. He believes that integrated water management action will increase public awareness of GEDSI aspects and have a long-term impact on our earth and water security. Okay. That's all my explanation. Hopefully, this will broaden our insight regarding good governance related to water security and GEDSI aspect. Greeting from Indonesia, and now we will go to Juhi in India. Over to you, Juhi.
Thank you, Tias, and thank you, Melita, for laying the foundation for the partnership. My slides are going to talk to two things. One is what is the governance and the WASH system framework we have been using, and how do we integrate partnership within it. But before we move forward, can we please see the video, please, just to set a background for the story I'm going to narrate. Thank you.
In Ward 11, champions like Sultana, Sakina, Parveen, Rameshwar, Reena Kawar, Sarita, and Zubeda, representing local rights holders collectives from 4 settlements, Indira Colony, Bhumia Basti, Braj Ki Dhumri, and JP Colony, demonstrated their resilience and commitment to facilitate the community to move from being unaware of gender equality, disability, and social inclusion to becoming aware of their rights and entitlements.
हमारे यहाँ पानी एक बूंद नहीं आता है। मैं पानी भरने नीचे जाती हूँ, दिमाग मेरे बहुत टेंशन में आता है, मैं क्या करूँ, मैं पानी भरूँ, घर को देखूँ या उनको देखूँ। मैं
विकलांग हूँ, पानी लेने वापस नीचे आना पड़ता है।
ऐसे पानी की बहुत सोच फिकर रहती थी, हमारे घुटनों में भी दर्द होने लग जाता था, कभी बुखार चढ़ जाती।
जो हमारी माँ है, हमारी बहन है, वो बहुत दुख पाती थी। एक दिन होता हम रामगढ़ मोड़ से पानी लेकर आते थे।
Powered by CSOs, right holders organizations or RHOs, SGM and transgender CBO and disability people's organizations, many champions not only became gender aware but were infused with the passion to make a difference.
मोड़ से जुड़ी हूँ पानी के लिए, फिर मैं एप्लीकेशन दे के आई हूँ, पार्षद जी से बात करी हूँ।
हमने सबने मिलकर मेहनत की है, हमने कोई ऐसा नहीं किया, हमने हमारा हक मांगा है।
With WASH governance needing to expand beyond government and their key departments to other players, it led to the formation of multi-stakeholder forum bringing together community, CSOs, governments, experts and private sector. Together they contributed to the empowerment and devolution of power and functions to urban local bodies and strengthened public-private community partnership.
ज्ञापन का असर हुआ भी, लेकिन जैसा हम चाहते थे वैसा नहीं हुआ। पानी ढलान में ही आया, ऊपर के क्षेत्र में पानी नहीं आया।
CSOs and RHOs, given their relationship with the community, play a very important role in deepening WASH inclusion. This we do by strengthening voice and agency of the community.
स्थानीय लोगों द्वारा बताया गया है कि बारिश के समय में जो ऊपर से पत्थर वगैरह हैं वो लुढ़क कर इनकी गलियों में आ जाते हैं, इसीलिए इस एरिया में मेटेलिक लाइन डालने का कार्य चल रहा है, जिससे इस प्रकार की किसी भी समस्या के लिए लाइन और पेयजल सप्लाई बाधित नहीं होगी।
क्लाइमेट चेंज और वॉश एक दूसरे के साथ बहुत क्लोजली कनेक्टेड है, क्योंकि इससे हमारी सेफ हैंड वॉशिंग प्रैक्टिसेस, हाइजीन प्रैक्टिसेस और सैनिटेशन प्रैक्टिसेस पे एडवर्स इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है। इसके लिए हमें मास लेवल पे सैनिटेशन फैसिलिटीज को कंस्ट्रक्ट करना चाहिए।
हम कुछ प्रयत्न कर सकते हैं, कुछ मॉडल बना सकते हैं, कुछ लर्न कर सकते हैं, हो सकते हैं उसमें हम सफल पहले प्रयत्न में ना हो, ये लंबी यात्रा है, तो वो हम कैसे ला सकते हैं उसके ऊपर हमें विचार करना है।
आज हमारे जलमेल में पानी की सुविधा चारों तरफ पूरी बस्ती में हो चुकी है, लेकिन पानी का कोई टाइम टेबल नहीं है, तो हम प्रयास करते हैं कि भाई हमारा पानी का टाइम टेबल फिक्स करें।
बहुत भागा दौड़ी करने के बाद में आज पानी हमारे घर आया।
By positioning the marginalized groups as rightful claimants, challenging regressive social norms, humbling power structures and fostering strong partnerships, the local rights holders systematically shaped and took ownership of the WASH inclusion process.
Thank you. Now, before we delve further into the understanding on how the rights holders have participated, I'd just like to point out the video, as you have already seen, tells us that the battle for equity requires marginal communities to be placed at the center of all processes of change. So their collective voice, their agencies, their partnerships at multiple levels will be very, very crucial when we want to move from gender unaware to gender transformative approaches and ensuring that no one is left behind. And this is exactly what Melita had explained in the continuing which she was sharing with us earlier. So what is this WASH governance which we are talking about? Firstly, there are three principles which we must underline before we speak of WASH governance. One is, WASH programming requires that the devolution of powers and decentralized participatory governance with union and federal bodies, as you can see on the top of the visual, they provide policy and program support. They will then further take the lead and decentralize and devolve this authority to the fourth tier, which is the people and the community forums which we are working with. Secondly, while WASH programming aims for universalization, this goal is challenging if we do not have adequate resources, if we do not have mechanisms, if we do not have workforce, especially when we are talking of informal settlements or poor settlements, in other words. And therefore, the institutional arrangements must extend beyond the government system. Our governance framework, as you can see, shows that we have service providers, frontline implementators on one side, a supportive system anchored by CSOs, RHOs, disabled people's organizations and CBOs on the other side, and a multi-stakeholder forum right at the center, which is helping in coordinating all partners and agencies. Second slide, please. Now, the question which comes to us is, why do we want to tell this story? This is because if we are talking of universalization, especially in the context of climate resilience WASH, and we also have to ensure that no one is left behind, WASH has to be revisioned or reimagined. And while we are reimagining, the GEDSI lens or the gender and socially inclusive lens has to be used to analyze what are we delivering, how are we delivering, and for whom are we delivering. And at the heart of this process is the partnership which we have built with RHOs, CSOs, and other marginalized communities organizations. Next slide, please. I'm now going to talk about the principles which Melita was saying and how do we evolve these principles and actually make sure that they come into practice. The six principles which we were highlighting in the earlier slide become very, very crucial when we are talking of climate resilience WASH. This is because increasing awareness of WASH programming, role of each stakeholder in strengthening this awareness, establishing new structures to challenge and change the power dynamics which are already existing, redefine public service roles and responsibilities, addressing power dynamics very openly, and fostering collaboration at all levels will be able to ensure that no one is left. Next slide. In one of the wards where the story you have heard has been told, which is Ward 11, which is a very, very climate impacted ward because it's on a very high terrain. And there is, the communities have been facing challenges of water for over 40 years. Almost 5,000 plus people were affected. The RHOs and CSOs played a very key role at two levels. One, firstly, they kept the system engaged by advocacy on the rights of the communities who were facing this shortage in this way. More than advocacy on the rights, also the different kind of risks they were facing, not only from war, but from the climate. As you can see, the official was talking about the stones falling down from the top of the hill to the bottom of the slum. Secondly, they also enabled the communities to become aware not only of their rights to water, but also to understand the collective power of collective dynamics, their own collective agency, and developing a local network of supporters, collecting and presenting evidence which is so compelling, and their conviction to remain true to the process and to the issue, which is the long-term issue, doesn't get resolved in a small time, is very, very important. What worked here was, I suggest that we keep rolling the slides because, there are many things which are already there in the slides and I don't want to repeat them. What worked here was that the conviction of the community to remain very, very steadfast, not get involved into any sectoral interest, make sure that whatever is designed and implemented is for the benefit of all. You will remember from the video, the last person who was speaking actually said, it was not working for all of us. So we needed to, advocate so that it works for everybody. So war services that are climate resilient benefit the entire world, and accountability to ensure that no one is left behind rests with all stakeholders. Our key takeaway from this entire thing is that governance has to be decentralized, it has to be devolved, and secondly, if we have to ensure that there is climate resilient WASH and no one is left behind, the principles of partnership have to be ensured and they have to be implemented so that the change which is coming is not only lasting but also long-term sustainable. Thank you, sir. I hand it over back to Melita and Jeff.
Thank you so much, Juhi and speakers. I think they were all excellent examples of putting marginalised voices at the centre of governance and challenging regressive social norms, as Juhi just mentioned. Now, we've got a few minutes for questions from the audience. I have a few here, but I would encourage you all to put in the chat any questions that you have for our speakers. Don't be shy. I know you have a lot of experience amongst the people on this chat, so we'd really like some hard-hitting, punchy questions for our speakers today. And the first one we have here is from Nadila Champaka to everyone. She says, I have a question. I noticed that in Indonesia, the agenda is GEDSI, whereas in India it's referred to as GEDSI. What's the difference? Are they interchangeable? Would any of the speakers like to answer that question from Nadila?
Hi.
Is GEDSI and GEDSI the same thing? Was GEDSI a precursor to GEDSI?
May I answer it, Sarah?
Please, yes, over to you, Tias.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nadila. In my opinion, the principle is the same. GEDSI or JC are the same because the terms SI, social inclusion, that includes the people with disability. Maybe Juhi, you can add my explanation.
Yes, I agree with what Tyas is saying. Why we have put D is because in India, we want to also ensure that gender equality and disability. Disability is an issue which is often very invisible. We want to call it out. So we use D because we want to focus on disability. And like my colleague Tyas has already said, social inclusion means that we look at all the marginalization and different marginalizations.
Fantastic. Any comments from yourself, Melita?
Thank you. Yes, look, I would totally agree with what's been said. And the reason we started to put the D in GEDSI with the Australian Water Partnership and with Water for Women Fund is, as Jui said, it really draws attention to the disability element of social inclusion. And some disabled people's organisations have requested that greater visibility. But as Tia said, in GESI, GESI, it is implicit. It is in there, it included, but it also depends on whether or not the program or the project does genuinely and meaningfully include that group. You can't just assume that people with disabilities or organisations for people with disabilities are included just because it's there in the acronym. There needs to be a real focus and attention to all the different types of organisations and groups. But yes, covered very well. Thank you. Hopefully that's a helpful answer to your question.
Great. And feel free to add some more questions in the chat or put up your hand. Would anyone like to ask a question? You can unmute your microphone and just ask a question. Now is the time. I know somebody has a question out there. Okay, while you're thinking of your questions, I might just ask, we have a few here that have been sent in. One for Tias. Tias, what motivates, thank you, Bongani. I'll just ask this question and then hand over to Bongani. What motivates the integrated water management members to join the forum, and how do you ensure sustainability after Yayasan plan has left the community or the program's finished? How do you ensure sustainability?
Okay. There are stages for initiating or forming this forum. There is an assessment, and the result was presented to all stakeholders in the district. From that meeting, common problems were found, mainly related to water security. And in Sumbawa, there is a water crisis because the area tends to be dry. This situation makes stakeholders feel the importance of coordination and communication forum to regulate water from upstream or its source to downstream or homes, including its quality. So we need cross-sector collaboration forum that was able to support and help overcome this water security problem. Then integrated water management forum was established. The members feel that climate change is real and affect the quality and quantity of water. So they are inspired to want to be actively involved in the forum. And about the guarantee of sustainability, I think the members are people who are committed to maintaining the sustainability of water security in Sumbawa district. They want to have a good access to water security in the long term. Besides, this forum is legal and there is a decree from region of Sumbawa. On the other hand, what also supports sustainability is the action plan of this forum is already in the existing annual work program of the department and OPD. So that will make its implementation easier. And in the future, there will be synchronization of integrated water management work program with the regional action plan for adaptation to climate change. I think it will support the sustainability. Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Fantastic. And that's a great example. And if anyone would like to learn more about this model of governance, you can check out the Water for Women Fund website, which is in the chat, where TIAS's project and case studies, there's lots of them there. And you can also contact TIAS and find out more. So Bongani, would you like to introduce yourself and ask your question? Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bongani Ngube. I'm a research chair at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology in South Africa, based in Cape Town. Thank you for all the wonderful work that I'm seeing across the world. It is quite exciting because this is really action at local level, which we always talk about, that things start at local level before they work at the top. What I wanted to find out is what is your experience in getting buy-in, for example, from the government or the municipalities who might feel that this is our mandate, this is what we've been doing. Do you face any resistance or sort of competition or something like that, undermining of your work? I just want to get your experiences in terms of what is the response from those organizations. Thank you.
Okay, can I answer that?
Yes, this question is to anyone really. Even yeah, Melita, that probably you're the right person to answer this. Thank you.
Yeah. So my friend Bongani, it's not easy. Let me start by saying that it is not easy because the priorities of the government and the marginalized communities are often not the same. The second thing is that there is a lack of connect between both of them. There is a lack of trust between them. And trust building is very, very critical to building any partnership. And the third is that there is a lack of recognition of the local and indigenous knowledge which exists in the community. And this is something which technical officers and experts and engineers in all our countries do not realize. So the first important principle of this partnership is that whatever the communities know, the government should know, and whatever the governments know, the communities should understand. So in order to bring them on the same platform, several meetings, several consultations are conducted. Once they start becoming, sort of receptive to each other, then the process of trust building keeps increasing day by day. And also, when we generate evidence from the ground, we are not challenging the system. We are saying these are the gaps, and together we will have to make it work. So first listen to me, understand what I'm saying, also preserve what I have, and then together we can make it work. So now I think after that it works. It's not easy, again I'm saying, but the process is a time-taking process, but both the government and the communities are together working on it. So that is why it becomes easier after the first levels of trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Any further comments from Melita or Tias on that question?
I think it's a great question about influence. And when we're talking in terms of governance, who has the power, who controls the system, and how can we influence that? And we're talking in this session about the people with the least amount of power and the least amount of voice, and us as a WASH sector, water, sanitation, hygiene sector, trying to bring people into the conversation and having a legitimate place in decisions around water and sanitation. So the research we've done in Timor-Leste in Indonesia has largely been focused on existing processes that might be in place from the government. So it might be a consultation process, or it might be an existing commitment around, open defecation free or improving WASH. And the WASH sector facilitating those additional voices and perspectives to be part of that conversation and bringing them in. And we found that the rights holder organizations who were supported to increase their technical knowledge around WASH, so some of the nuts and bolts of how the WASH system works and the sources of water and the sources of pollution, etc., that gave them a lot more confidence in those forums, and then they were able to advocate for WASH as well as gender equality, inclusion, outcomes. And so it's about supporting the rights holder organisations to be part of that existing infrastructure or governance ecosystem, but we need to just not throw them into it, but actually work together and support each other so that can be a very productive and positive experience for everyone. But great question about the pushback and carving out space for these conversations, for these groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Bongani, for that question and those answers. Okay, we've got an interesting question here from a few interesting questions. We've got one from Raju Tirwa, who says, how do you consider transgender people in WASH services? That's a great question. I know, Juhi, that you've done a lot of work with marginalized and transgender communities in Jaipur and Bhubaneswar. Would you like to answer that one?
So what we do is we partner with rights holders, organizations who are working with people of diverse gender, not only transgender, but sexual and gender minorities. So these CDOs or these organizations are custodians of the issue. And we as WASH sector specialists do not speak on behalf of them. We enable them and facilitate them to work with the system on advocacy on the rights of issues of transgender. As a result, the system begins to listen to them because it's, they are there to tell them about all the shortfalls, all the gaps, and all the enablements which are needed. And that is how we have been able to work. So partnership again brings us back to the point Lilita has been making in her presentation, that partnership with right holders groups, whether it is disabled people, whether it is SDM groups, or whether it is trans persons, is very, very critical in order to further these.
Raju, does that answer your question, or do you have some follow-up questions? Feel free to turn off your microphone and speak. Melita, any comments from you on inclusion of marginalized voices, including transgender and... Raju, did you have another question or comment?
Yeah, actually, that's a follow-up question that I wanted to know about that. Actually, this sanitation is one of the components of the WASH sector. So, while constructing the toilets, actually, the universal practice is that this is for men, this is for women, or this is for female, this is male. So we already know that this transgender community, they don't want to expose themselves. They don't need that. They should have separate toilet for them, but they are quite interested to use the existing toilet. So if the trans man goes to the women's toilet, she or he needs to have some, for instance, menstrual pad, sanitary pad, changing, or disposal, containers over there. But if you go inside the women's toilet, these will be, harassed. Oh, you are the man, looks like man. Why are you coming inside? These are the issues we have been facing so far. So how we consider those communities to make them included in the WASH services? This was my question.
Okay, Mr. Raju, I agree to everything you have said. It is very difficult. So what we have been, I'll explain with an example. In the cities where we are working in cities of Jaipur and Bhubaneswar. Through the advocacy, we have enabled the alliance holders organization to say that whatever toilets are being constructed have a signage which is a unisex signage. So if a trans man wants to go to, say, a male toilet or a female toilet, there is a sign which says that yes, you can use that. And that is what gives them the enablement and the protection to use those. And this has been done again with support of rights holders organizations who have said exactly what you said, that we can't use those toilets because nobody allows us to use them. And the system has been sensitized. So when new toilets are being built, you can actually see it in practice. When new toilets are built, there is a unisex sign. So you can use that. And this is not a single day process. It is something which happens day by day. And for this, the government and the right holders and the NGOs and CSO sectors like us have to work together and keep advocating for the rights of partners.
Any further comments on this question from Cambodia or Indonesia? Melita, Tias.
No, just to reiterate that the choices about infrastructure and accessibility will be very contextual, and that's why partnering with the organizations in each context that knows the needs and the sensitivities around the political context is so important, and that it's very hard as outsiders to imagine what is possible and what the best option is unless you do the work like Juhi and Tias are doing, which is really closely connected to the community and community needs, and helping to shift perceptions over time. So they don't just build toilets, they're doing these really very comprehensive programs with the broader community. And as a result, rights holders and rights holder organizations are gaining more respect and more overall benefits from being part of this project. And we've seen that with different groups being engaged in WASH projects, that the overall perception from the community is one of greater respect and interest in them. So there's these flow-on effects. But yeah, you need to look at the whole system. Thank you.
So this is a really strong message coming out from all three speakers, that it's really important to include rights holder organizations in WASH projects. Now, there's a question about rights holder organizations here from Valentina. She says, hello, I'm a graduate student researching the human right to water. And in terms of rights and right holder organizations, could there be more mobility with a rights-based approach within governance? So adaptation of laws. Valentina, do you want to explain your question a bit more and ask it? It's a very interesting question. You're talking about adapting laws to ensure that rights holder organizations are included. I think this is an excellent point. Do we have any examples of this? Melita, I know you've worked a lot on research with rights holder organizations. Do you have any comments to Valentina's?
I would love to hear Valentina speak more on that question, but what I'm interpreting is that, yes, in terms of governance, you've got everything from laws and policies, legislation, and all of the machinations of government. And we're talking more at that local level and engagement with processes and consultation, etc. But in order for those sorts of processes to be universal and to really stick, you need them to be in laws, in policies. And so, yes, there would be a lot of room for local laws to stipulate that if you are going to build a wash system, a latrine, etc., to put in toilets in a school, you need to go through these sorts of good quality consultation processes or these sorts of engagement processes. So there would be a lot of room for that. I don't have examples myself. Juhi might at that local government level. Yes, thank you, Juhi.
Yes, adding to what Melita is saying, if you remember the governance framework which we had showed, there is a multi-stakeholder forum which we have depicted at the bottom, which is bringing all the agencies together. The multi-stakeholder forum not only has WASH and climate partners, they also have right holders of it. And once all the three enablers come together and work with service providers, you create a mechanism which coordinates the entire process. So there is an inbuilt consultation. There is a lot of, reiterative meetings. There is a lot of advocacy for the policy. And then the system begins to respond because they realize the importance of inclusion. And the role of right holders is essentially to make sure that no one is left behind, whether it is a transgender. And this will only happen when the institution is strengthened not only to understand, but to also put it out in practice through their policies. And this is what we are aiming to achieve through this governance framework. Does that answer what you are asking, or would you like to elaborate more?
I think she's saying yes, sure, through civil engagement, and then she's posted a website, human rights. Yes,
yeah, that's me actually, just adding the
sorry,
website.
Melita. Yes.
Rights Real campaign. So that is very much answering your question about what can you do at that local government level that is in the laws and the policies to make rights real in WASH and the duty bearers accountable to those to serving those rights. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, we do have a couple more minutes. Any final question from those of us on this call? Frederica, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I just want to direct to Juhi because I saw from the video mentioned that sometimes we can success or sometimes we can fail for to involving people with disability or marginalized people in our work. But sometimes I agree that we cannot work for a long time in one area or in one location. So my question is, what your strategy to put the approach to sustain in one area, especially to include in the government planning. Thank you.
Yes. So what we were trying to say to that you see, communities do not have the option of failing because they are so much at a disadvantage, not only in terms of WASH, but in terms of their poverty, in terms of other marginalization. They have to succeed, and to enable that, it is very important that governance is strengthened. And to strengthen that governance, what we are trying to say is that while the policies are enabled by the government, the devolving of those policies to the third tier is very important so that the processes become consultative. And that is how the communities get involved in the entire process at every level, from not only hearing about the issues, understanding about the issues, building their own capacities, but actually into planning and then into implementation. So, like we said, it's not easy, but it's not impossible either.
What a great question. Yeah, great question there and answer. Yeah. Now, we do have 3 minutes, so I would like our speakers just to leave us with one final message each, just a sort of elevator pitch. If there's one thing you want people on this call to take home with them, what is it? So very briefly, over to you first, Tias, and then Melita, and then finally with Juhi. Thank you.
Okay. Just short conclusion from me. Learn from integrated water management. Cross-sector collaboration is a necessity, and the involvement of marginalized group is a must in supporting water security or even in other sector in our life.
Yeah, I'll just say that partnering with rights holder organizations really helps to make sure that nobody is left behind. Thank you.
And my final takeaway is that having diverse voices is very, very crucial to having climate resilient WASH. And for that, governance systems and local mechanisms have to be strong.
Fantastic. So diverse voices and including rights holder organizations. I would like to thank all of our expert speakers today and also Emily Ella, who's been clicking the slides in the background. Thank you very much for joining us, and please do take these messages out into your work. And thank you very much. Have a good day, good evening, wherever you are. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily.